This is the Brisbane Lions Fancast with Dom Fay and Michael Whiting.
Yes, sadly, we came crashing back to earth a little bit on Saturday night against the Giants, Mike. 2 great wins, followed by one of the most disappointing performances of the year. What did you make of it?
Oh, it was terrible, Dom. It was a long old night on Saturday night. So I guess the writing was on the wall pretty early when the Giants kicked a couple of early goals, but Brisbane seemed to get back into the match and get a couple of goals in front before half-time. But that little spell just before half-time when the Giants kicked 3 and the second half was just, honestly, it was a disgrace. Like, it was poor play from the Lions. It looked like they gave up. There hasn't been a lot of talk post-match to the contrary to that. So just a really disappointing effort off the past couple of weeks. So I'm sure they've had a good hard look at themselves, and they need to, because serving that up, especially on your home ground, when there wasn't a lot of people there in the first place, it's not really going to encourage them to come back in the future. So poor performance, I thought. Yeah,
I've been a member for a number of years. It was one of, if not the smallest crowd I've seen at the Gabba, and probably justifiably so for the contest that ended up being dished up. I know Lepper did comment post-match that he knew within the first minute that something wasn't quite right, and I reckon quite a few fans did too.
Really interesting comment that, wasn't it? You don't often hear coaches say that. There's a lot of coaches after a number of years still say, we don't know what we're going to get from our team. Just because they train well doesn't mean they're going to play well. But Lepper knew straight away, and he was spot on the money. It had a little bit of a flat feeling straight away, didn't it? So
yeah,
a lot to pour over and a lot to try and improve on, because there was a number of areas that let the Lions down.
See, I've come away from matches feeling obviously much happier, but also much more upset about a result. It just seemed, the word flat that you used seemed spot on throughout the whole night. The match seemed flat. The Lions' attitude seemed flat. The crowd seemed pretty flat too. On all fronts, it just wasn't a superb match. I mean, I did take a little bit of confidence out of Lepper saying that he knew a minute in that we weren't good, because it shows one thing. It shows that he knows his team. And I think a coach knowing his team, especially this early on in coaching them, is very encouraging. But that's about as encouraging as Saturday night was.
Yeah, what he also said was that he knew at the start of the year he was probably going to get 6 matches like this through the season. He just didn't know when they were going to come, just because of the nature of the list, and it's very young. But it doesn't excuse the performance, and he certainly wasn't trying to excuse the performance. But just again, I guess after the Carlton match, which was so exciting and a comeback and showed a lot of spirit, and the Western Bulldogs away from home showing a lot of spirit again to stave off a fourth quarter comeback from the Dogs, it was a complete contrast on Saturday night. So I don't really think there was many positives you can take out of that. I think you look at it, you've got to pick out the mistakes. I thought some of the free kicks given away, the ill discipline, which Dane Zorko spoke to me about, which we'll have a story on our website. He spoke to me about that on Tuesday. The ill discipline was poor. The contested footy was poor. The work around the stoppages wasn't great. Just not a lot of positives you can take out of that one.
Yeah, we got to the end of the game, and again, the best players, we're looking at the rookies, the first year players for a large part. I mean, many would say Lewis Taylor was our best on ground.
I'd agree with you there.
Among the best also people like Josh Green, Marco Paparo, and many of your young players were the better players on the ground on Saturday night. And
that was a regression, wasn't it? Back to sort of a month ago or 6 weeks ago.
Yeah, so as much as Lepper says that, with a young team you expect some performances like this, it felt to me like it wasn't the young players. Again, like they were at the standard they've probably been at most of the year. In fact, some of them lifted. It's the lack of the senior players who regressed again. They finally found their form that we know of them, the Patfuls, the Rocklifts, players like that. And then suddenly, senior players all out of form again, and that really was what cost us.
Yeah, and there was... I don't want to make any excuses because it was just a poor performance, but I guess Daniel Merritt was a late withdrawal. Jonathan Brown was taken off in the second half, but while these things counted against the Lions, that's something they're going to have to deal with very shortly into the future, which we'll touch on Brownie in a second. But these guys aren't going to be around for forever. Brownie's future's obviously in limbo. Daniel Merritt's 30. You've touched on Joel Patfull there. He's 30. There's a lot of guys in that bracket that we just have to learn to deal without these guys, whether they're there or not. And that's your middle brackets, your middle bracket of players, age-wise, and obviously the young guys that you've touched on have done more than they've been asked to do this year. So it's very concerning, and certainly no excuses for Saturday night.
I chose, I think, the wrong game to take my girlfriend to her first ever game of AFL football too, was the feeling I felt coming out of that game on Saturday night. There may have an uphill battle working there in future. But
probably not doing yourself many favours there.
No, not a lot.
But I must confess, this is something I've mentioned on this show a couple of times, but I didn't actually get to see much of the second half, because once Big Brownie went down, it was all... We're furiously trying to type out updated stories and get onto talking points for our match coverage, and it was all pretty crazy. But I'm glad I didn't see a lot of the second half, just sort of lifting my head up from the keyboard occasionally to see another goal kicked. So I guess Lions put it behind them, look to Fremantle, and that's the good thing about footy. You get another chance 7 days later, don't you, as tough as it is.
Yeah, it is the good thing about footy, but it's hard to get hope in that game. We'll get to that in a minute. First, we should touch on Brown now. This is probably, in my opinion, the first time, with all the media talk, this is the first time I've actually thought this could be it for Brown. Last year when he did his plantar fascia injury, I probably didn't quite think this is the end for him. He seemed to have a bit of hunger left. As he showed, he played on, and there's been a few other times people have said he's played too long, but you've seen some form in him, some passion. But then Sunday it was now, on the Sunday footy show, he made some comments that sounded strangely indecisive from Brown.
That's right. He just left the door open, didn't he? I think that's why everyone sort of got into a bit of a frenzy over that 24 hours, because Brownie's been so stoic about playing the season out, or he'd decide when he wants to, and he's got a lot more to offer, and he loves footy, and I think his quote about 6 weeks ago was, "There's no white flags in my back pocket," and was classic Brownie. And I guess he always bats those questions away so emphatically. But he just left the door open on Sunday, on the Sunday footy show, saying that he was going to speak to his doctor, speak to his family. Obviously, he's got his third child on the way very shortly, and just I guess gave a bit of a hint. Said he wasn't scared of the thought of retirement, so I think that's why everyone got up in arms a bit. And I guess the retirement talk really came to the surface. Sorry, mate, I was going to say, as a fan, I've asked a couple of players early this week how they felt when they saw Brownie on the ground again on Saturday night, because he was obviously KO'd. As a fan, what was your reaction when you saw him knocked out at the start of the third quarter the other night?
Yeah, I think everyone had hearts in their mouth for a moment there. And, obviously I've read the articles, I've seen the incident played however many times now. Honestly, I sit here as a fan and I almost want him to retire. And I say that because he has given so much to this football club. As you said, he's got his third child just about to be born. He's got a family to think about. Now, there isn't, absolutely conclusive evidence that suggests that these kind of head knocks will lead to issues down the track. But, I mean, there are signs that would suggest that it does have an influence. And I just think that, there's not much more he can give. He's not going to get that much more out of playing the rest of the year. I'm not sure that the club will either. I mean, it would be great to have him there, but I don't think it's pivotal that we have him there. We'll move on regardless. So I almost think for his health, for his future, perhaps this is where he should say, enough's enough.
It certainly scared everyone, I think, on Saturday night, just the nature of the incident again. And a couple of ex-players, I think, Wayne Carey and Gary Lyon, and respected guys, and guys that actually played Brownie's position as well. Not that that's got a lot to do with it, but have, I guess, echoed your thoughts there that now might be the time to call it quits. But I mean, no one's ever going to tell Brownie what to do. Like
he's not going to listen to me.
No, and he's not going to listen to me either. And he probably wouldn't listen to Wayne Carey, who he idolised, or Gary Lyon, or anyone else. He's always been his own man, but I think everyone now is a bit... I mean, over the 24 hours after the incident happened, I've always gone from Brisbane really needs him. He can play for as long as he wants. I've sort of changed my feelings as well and thought, geez, I just hate to see him go through that again, because it was purely accidental. It wasn't anything cavalier or silly that Brownie had done. There was no running back with the flight when he couldn't get there or anything. It was just a footy accident, but we've just seen it a number of times. So, I mean, part of me, I'm a bit of a fence sitter on this one. Like, I'd really like to see him play out the year and finish on his terms, which I think is what he'd like to do, finish on his terms. So, but beyond that, I'd be quite comfortable, and if he retired now. I mean, the job he does around the club is unbelievable. The way everyone looks up to him, and what he provides the younger guys, and what he provides even the more experienced guys at the club. Jed Adcock said last week that he's still a great sounding board. As far as it's his first year as a sole captain, and he still leans on Brownie quite a lot for help in that department as well. So, but I'd just love to see him probably play out the year, get a little bit of a bit of a farewell tour almost. It'd be
great.
Get
to 600 goals as well.
Great to see him get to 600 goals. Great to see him. I don't know if Brownie would announce his retirement before a final home game, but it'd be great to see a bit of a farewell game for him at some stage. And personally, I'd love to see him play the year out and finish on his terms.
Yeah, regardless, you do have to feel for Kylie Brown, who is one of the most suffering women in football, you'd think.
We all are saying, well, we were scared when we saw him on the ground, and his teammates were saying they were scared. But imagine poor Kylie. She certainly does it tough. She's got the most fearless husband in Australian sport. And
absolutely.
Puts himself through it quite often. So, But like we said, no one's going to tell Brownie, and good luck to him, because that's how he's forged his reputation, and everyone will respect and honour his thoughts and his decision no matter what happens. So I guess just fingers crossed for his health first and foremost, and he'll figure it out from there.
Absolutely. So we will touch briefly now on the match that will be on this Saturday night.
I like how we've padded quite a lot of time there so we can minimise the chat on Fremantles. We're getting good.
Yeah, well, here's the thing, Mike. I don't know if I've felt such a sense of, such an ominous feeling going into a game as I do for this one for a long time now. Even if we'd beaten GWS and shown the form of the past 2 weeks, I would be feeling very daunted going into Freo over there, because they seem to have got their stride back, Freo. Yeah,
they have. They've played a few, I guess, lower teams, if that's fair, in recent weeks, but they have got their form back. They've beaten Richmond, they've beaten Adelaide. So I guess, lower, they're out of the top 8. They've sort of found a bit of form. They found that pressure back. Most of their good players are in form now. Hayden Ballantyne kicked the bag on the weekend. So, they're good players, are in good form. They're getting a bit of their mojo back. It's a tough time for Brisbane to go over there, that's for sure. But I think they'll put that, we talk about ups and downs with young teams. I think the down was certainly last week. There'll be not one skerrick of complacency, clearly, playing against one of the best teams in the competition. So I'd expect a much improved effort, but just can't see how it's going to be good enough to significantly push the Dockers.
Yeah, no, you'd be surprised if even our absolute best was enough to get within, a few goals.
I think you can just cop it, though, as long as you see the best, can't you? So they might go for a little bit more run over in Perth. We know it's a big ground at Subiaco, so a bit more run, maybe one or two of the younger players will come back into the team, I think. I'm not sure there'll be a stack of changes, but a little bit more run mightn't go astray, and let a few hungry guys get back out on the field again and give a little bit of a punishment to the guys that were so poor last week.
And look, if there's something that footy has taught us, almost every week, is that nothing is impossible, and sometimes the impossible does seem to actually occur. So, I mean, there's no saying that we absolutely can't win this match.
Hey, we saw the Bulldogs, who were the scum of the earth after the Lions had beaten them. Everyone's, how could they lose to the Lions? And then they came out and beat Collingwood, so who were red hot. Collingwood, they'd been such a good team for such a long part of this season. So you're right, anything can happen. It's going to be a monumental task, but it's such a cliche. If you bring your effort, you just don't know. If you're in the game for a long period, who knows what happens sort of late when Fremantle won't expect to be pushed. So if you keep it close, they might get nervous. You never know, but I can't see it happening.
Absolutely. It does seem like one where we have the odds stacked against us, but I imagine from what a number of players say, these kind of challenges is what you live for as a player. So it'll be very interesting to see how we go on Saturday night. After this on the Fancast, though, we'll be chatting to one of the good news stories of the Lions this year, Clay Beams.
The best way to keep track of everything Lions is to head to lions.com.au. It's the first place to find the latest Lions news and videos, get the lowdown on upcoming games, results and player stats. There's also great ways to interact with live chats, downloads and Player of the Year voting updates. And with a social media hub, you can connect with all the Lions' social media activity. Lions.com.au. Everything Lions, all in one place.
Joining us on the Fancast this week is one of the better news stories of the Lions this year. It is Clay Beams. Welcome to the show, Clay. How you going?
Good, thanks, guys. How are you?
Yeah, we're pretty well. Obviously, pretty disappointing result on Saturday night. What's been the feeling after a game like that?
Obviously, disappointment, embarrassment, but a week in footy is a long time, so it's important that we reviewed it and reviewed it thoroughly, and now we just got to get on with business, and that's Freo this week over there.
Clay, a couple of the players I've spoken to earlier this week said that you might have been a bit complacent, just sort of struggling to deal with the expectation of being favourites and struggling to deal with winning the previous few weeks. Is that how you felt? And is that how you sort of saw Saturday night as well?
Oh no, I wouldn't say complacent. Probably, we had a poor training session on Thursday. The boys didn't train well, and that's sort of a trend for us. If we don't train well, we normally don't play that well. So, I don't know. It was a bad performance, and we just have to rectify it this week.
What do you mean by didn't train well? Was it just low intensity, missed targets, things like that?
Yeah, just little things, mate. Just little things that we sort of mark ourselves on.
It's interesting because Lepper said after the match that he knew very early in the match on Saturday night that yous were struggling. It sounds like you guys can almost feel that as well in the lead up to the match now.
Yeah, you prepare. Yeah, it's hard to sort of tell because you prepare the same each week, and it's just once you step over that white line.
So what were some of the main points that you guys got in the review that you've worked on now already leading towards the Fremantle match?
Obviously, when teams like GWS, you can't afford to give them a sniff, and we got off to a sort of a poor start, and I think towards the second quarter we pinned it back a bit, and I think might have even got out to a lead, but there was a patch there where they kicked 4 goals, and they were from undisciplined acts, and such as giving away free kicks, and GWS were able to score a lot from stoppages, so just reviewed the midfield side of things as well, how they scored and that.
That's also something else. I spoke to Dane Zorko on Tuesday today, Clay, about discipline. It's something you guys are last in the competition for. I guess you've conceded the most free kicks. Is that something you have really spoken about and that it's been highlighted among the group that you can't sort of give away cheap possession?
Oh, yeah, definitely. And free kicks are contested possession as well, and in most cases around stoppages, they're clearances and inside 50s the other way and that sort of thing. So, yeah, it's just silly. Like, you can't afford to give them away in today's game.
Now, just on a personal level, we chatted to you last year when you were on the comeback trail from injury. I'm just wondering, has it impressed you or surprised you, or I imagine it's made you very happy how quickly you've come back and slotted into the your senior side straight away?
Yeah, I'm a week. I take it week to week. I don't count my chickens, so this will be my fifth week in a row. So, it's something I haven't been able to do for a couple of years, and it's a good feeling. You just got to keep doing what I do, and trying to stay out the paddock every week.
Of course, you had the knee last year and a foot that set you back I think the injury happened in the pre-season comp. Does your body feel like it's back to 100%? Do you feel like you've got all your pace and your agility and I guess all those things that have sort of made you a good footballer to this stage?
Yeah, definitely. Week to week, you get better and better at the sort of AFL intensity side of things. So, every week I'm feeling better and better, and I feel pretty good now. So,
and
sorry,
I was just going to say, just after that foot injury that happened in the preseason competition, the club did re-sign you. Was that a massive show of confidence from them? Like, did that really boost your confidence, knowing that despite the injury history, they were willing to commit even further?
Yeah, it was nice. I wasn't. It wasn't on my mind at the time because it was literally the day after my operation. They rang me and said that they wanted to extend my contract. So, it's extremely nice from the club and loyal, and I look forward to trying to repay the club because they've invested a lot in me, and it'd be nice to be able to repay them.
Can you tell us about your midfield group, Clay, because you obviously weren't a part of it for 12 months there with the injury and whatnot, and you've walked back in and there's Louis Taylor and James Aish and quite a few new faces. Can you tell us about that dynamic of the new midfield group that you've sort of walked back into? Yeah,
well, obviously, last time I played last year, Blackie was there, and he's not there, obviously, anymore. And, Tom Rockcliffe, he's a huge part of our midfield, and Pierce Hanley spent a lot more time inside this year, and really relishing in that role at the moment. He's starting to come into some nice form, and obviously you got Jack Redden, and then you got the young boys, Louis Taylor, Josh Green, Dane Zorko, James Aish. So all these boys are adding a different thing to the midfield group, and the more you can sort of get through there on the night, the better. So, yeah, it's been refreshing. It's nice.
We've seen a bit of you there in the midfield, a bit on the wing, in times a bit at half forward. What is your ideal position? Are you aiming to get in that main midfield rotation? Is that what you're working towards?
I'd enjoy that, yeah. So at the moment I'm playing sort of, I go everywhere, inside, outside, and then half forward. So I suppose that's not a bad thing because I'm able to add that versatility, and I'm not just one position player. So eventually I'd like to, but I'd like to think you've got to do an apprenticeship before you can go into an AFL midfield.
Mate, Fremantle this weekend, huge. Look, it's probably as tough a challenge as you can get in the AFL, having to travel over there and play one of the most suffocating defences. What is the mindset, and how do you turn it around from such a disappointing loss last weekend?
Oh, mate, it's a great challenge, and what better chance to get on the road, go to Freo, their home ground, and there won't be too many Brisbane supporters there, and it's just us there, and it's up to us. So it's a great challenge, but the boys are looking forward to it.
Alongside Sydney at the SCG, at a guess, I'd say that playing over in Perth is the ground that the club has the worst record at over the past few years. Is there something daunting about the fact that you've had these processes of getting up for games, feeling like there's an opportunity, and then the same result, or does it provide a real inspiration that this time it can be different?
Oh, you've only got to look at the results the weekend that just went. There was a few upsets, and the AFL at the moment, any week anyone can beat anyone. So. We're going over there, we'll take it to them, and we'll just see what happens.
I guess every week everyone talks about midfields, and that's where the battle's won and lost. But how do you get on top of their midfield, Clay? Because they're such big guys, aren't they, with Mundy, Fife, and all these sort of fellas that are not just strong midfielders, but they're quite big as well.
Yeah, but they've got a quality midfield group, and they've got arguably the best ruckman in the league feeding it to them. So we're going to have to be a lot better this week with our body positioning and making sure we try and test them defensively and vice versa. So, look, it's a great challenge, but we got absolutely smashed in the midfield on the weekend. So the boys will be working hard this week and looking forward to rectifying that.
With a third string ruckman in, and Stephen Martin's done a good job in the 2 games he's played, but with the main 2 ruck choices out, do you as a wider midfield group have to have more of a focus, and do you train much on sharking opposition ruckman's taps?
You've got to get strong position on your opponent, and then if the ball's there to be won, win it. So yeah, you obviously at times, like on the weekend, Closey was in the ruck. So when that sort of thing happens, then we'll play, I suppose, more defensively and try and shark the opposition tap. But Steph's been huge. A little bit quieter last week than his first week, but he's still getting his hands on the footy. So.
Well, all the best for the game on Saturday night. Hopefully you can achieve another great upset. We're all backing you in, and hopefully your progression back from injury continues as well as it's been going. Thanks for joining us.
No worries. Thanks, guys.
This weekend, the seniors do come up against Freo at Patersons Stadium, 5:40pm local time over there. That will be a 7:40pm game here. It's daunting, Mike. I remember I think it was just when we turned the mics off last week, you said, and I hope I'm not speaking out of turn here, but you made the comment that you could just see this match turning into kind of a match that ended up at 90-30 or something along those lines.
Yeah, well, I guess there's my prediction. And nothing I saw last Saturday night is going to change my mind. So
it just seems to be the way they go against games against Freo in previous years, not just for us, but for clubs around our mark. You go over there, you never really feel in the match. I mean, you don't ever really, until near the end, get completely obliterated.
It's never a blowout. It's always sort of 3 or 4 goals to 1 every quarter, or then 4 goals to 2, and then 4 goals to 2 again, and all of a sudden you look up and you're 40 or 50 behind. Even though it doesn't feel like you've been totally decimated, they just strangle away. They make it very hard to score against you. They don't let the ball move quickly. So that tends to be the way games go over there. And I don't know, maybe I jinxed the Lions last week. I don't pick them very often, and I picked them last week and they lost. So hopefully we'll do the reverse this week. But I'd be very surprised if the boys had a win over there, but I'm sure they're not. They haven't got that attitude. You can't, or you're kidding yourself. But for mine, if they can be, I hate the word competitive, but they have to be competitive at a minimum. And I guess the scoreboard's somewhat irrelevant as long as we see 4 quarters of good effort, and not just effort, but you want to see some good ball movement and some good play as well. That we had seen the previous 2 weeks.
Well, footy these days is so much a momentum game, and what you just described there, that 90-30 type game, is what Freo so often do, and it just takes momentum out of it. There's not momentum swings. It's one pace all the way through. A
bit like Melbourne has this year. They don't let the ball move too quickly from the opposition, and that's what Freo does. They just strangle you. You're quick kicking out of stoppages. It's going to another stoppage. You're quick kicking out of that, and that's why they're a good team. They're a very good team. So what Brisbane will see is that this is what you have to get to. Yeah. If you want to be an elite team in the competition, they'll get a first-hand experience of exactly what they have to do.
Absolutely. I'm also tipping Freo by, well, you'd think at least 6 goals. And that's not me lacking confidence in the Lions. That's just saying that I think most teams that went over there right now, unless you're the Swans or Port Adelaide, are probably going to get beaten by more than 6
Absolutely. I
goals.
saw a game a couple of weeks ago. I went down to watch Gold Coast and Sydney. Gold Coast, I thought, played extremely well. I thought it was probably one of their better games of the year. They lost by 6 goals. There's no reflection on the Gold Coast. It's more a reflection on the opposition. I think that could be the case this weekend.
Absolutely.
You'd be happy to lose by 6 as long as you see a good performance.
Yeah, we would. But in saying that, we'd love to be
Much
sitting here
happier
next
to see
week.
a win.
Exactly. If we're sitting here next week after a win, there will be celebrations. You can be sure of that.
Oh, and we can crap on after a win too.
Oh,
so
we can. Absolutely can. 50-minute podcast if that happens. We'll be back next week to chat about that game. Until then, this is the Fancast. Bye.